Hi everyone. Day 2 of our revision and reflection unit. Today I'm going to be discussing some tips for revision. We'll cover the reflection portion of the assignment on Friday. So remember that revision is more than just editing or proofreading. It occurs on a larger scale, and so it might involve crafting an entirely new thesis or a new section of your paper, rearranging paragraphs, and so on. Of course, you do want to pay attention to proofreading and things like transitions in this final version, but you really should be focusing more on larger scale changes. In order to do this, you should think about my comments and the comments you've received in your peer review session, as well as what you've learned since the rhetorical analysis unit that you might be able to apply to your revised version. There's this handy list from an old English 101 textbook that I've posted here on Elms. It's called 13 Strategies for Revision. So we'll open this up real quick. So I'd suggest that you read through this. There are some really good strategies here and things that you might want to try out. Uh, you'll figure out what works best for you, and maybe you've already used some of these strategies in revising other assignments. That's great. I'd highly recommend a few things here. So the first one is number 4, start a new file for the revision. It can be really difficult to revise within the original document because you can't tell what or how much you've changed. So open up a fresh document and work chronologically, not copying and pasting the old version into the new one, but retyping if you can manage it. This way, you'll force yourself to really consider your writing from the first time around, and you'll also have a better sense of how your draft is changing. The second tip that I really like is number 2, write a reverse outline of your essay. Sometimes it's hard scrolling through a 4 to 5 page document and being able to keep everything in your head. So outline it as though somebody else had written it, and then look at your outline to see how it flows. What would be better if you rearranged it? Where could you add new material? Is there anything that you should take out, etc.? Afterward, rewrite your essay from this new outline. I think this was one of the things that we talked about during the summary unit, was creating an outline of the text that you were summarizing. It can be really helpful to do it with your own essay too, pretend that somebody else wrote it. And then the last thing that I wanted to highlight here is number 8, work on your thesis and support away from the essay. In a separate document or on a separate sheet of paper, write down your thesis statement. I noted on a lot of your rhetorical analyses that you need a more specific thesis. This is something that happened overwhelmingly in the papers. It was a trend. Your thesis should do a few things. So first, it needs to identify the purpose of the source text. What is the thesis of the essay that you were analyzing? Okay, this needs to be accurate, right? So you need to make sure that you're accurately reflecting the purpose of this other writer's piece of writing. The second thing that the thesis needs to do is discuss rhetorical techniques that the author uses to achieve that purpose. So you can think of it as a mathematical formula where x plus y plus z are the rhetorical techniques, and they add up to some thesis statement. Okay? So you can phrase your thesis essentially that way. But number 3, you need to be really specific about those rhetorical techniques. So you need to say more than just ethos, logos, and pathos equal that person's thesis statement, okay? And you also shouldn't just use synonyms for ethos, logos, and pathos. So I noticed that in a lot of papers, maybe the writer avoided using the word pathos, but they said something vague like emotional appeal, right? That's the same thing as pathos or emotional language. That really doesn't tell your reader what you mean. It's just a way of avoiding saying pathos, right? So be really specific about things that you notice in the essay that are contributing to that emotional effect. Okay? And let me know if you have any questions about that. I'd be happy to look at thesis statements if you want me to. Just get in touch with me. Okay. I'd also advise you not to tackle all of the rhetorical techniques in your essay. So I noticed in some of the papers that people are trying to cover ethos, logos, pathos, structure, chronos, all of these things, and they were just devoting a paragraph to each one. And you really want to avoid that, okay? I would advise you to just choose maybe like 2, 3 at the most rhetorical techniques and just dig into them, okay? So that means finding different angles, different ways the writer is appealing to that rhetorical tool. So maybe you have, in terms of ethos, you have a paragraph talking about so let's take the daring to go to college when poor essay, that op-ed, right? Enoch Jemmett has ethos one because he himself was a high school student from a relatively poor neighborhood applying to college, right? So he has been through it himself and is able to speak to the struggle. But he also has ethos because now that he's been through this experience, he helps other high school students. He's a college student now, and he has a program where he helps high school students apply to colleges. So that's also a way that he has credibility, right? Is that he sort of does this professionally now. So you might have a paragraph talking about his own experiences as a high school student, and then another paragraph talking about his experience in helping high school students, right? Because they both contribute to ethos. So instead of just one paragraph on ethos where you sort of gloss over all of the things that make him credible, you really want to like delve into those things and fully explore what they mean and what they're doing for his essay. Once you have a solid thesis statement, you should go back to the source text and pick specific examples to help prove your thesis, and then write these down on your paper too. So they may be the same or different from your original examples, and you'll think about how they're working to forward the source text. What you're doing is essentially creating a deconstructed rhetorical analysis just on a sheet of paper, a kind of free writing exercise or an outline before you get into the paper. It's really easy to get tripped up thinking about the prose part of an essay, so stepping away from the actual writing for a minute and working on your argument separately can be helpful. One last tip. I'd recommend that you use the merge document feature on Microsoft Word if you use Word to write, okay? So I can do an example of this. So I have a sample paper here from a student in an English 101 section. They weren't my student. But this is one that the department gave me. And then I have a revised version too. Oh, sorry. Here's the revised version. Okay. So when you're doing this, what you can do is you have your original version and then your revision. You'll go to your revised version and hit the review tab. Your Microsoft Word might look slightly different from mine depending on what version you have. But in the review tab, if you hit compare and then compare documents, you put in the original document title here and then the revised document title here. It'll make you go through all of your files to pull them up. You'll hit OK, and it will give you something that looks like this. It'll show you the changes. So it'll show you what's deleted, what's kept, and what's added. Okay, so it seems like in this version, the things that are underlined are added. The things that are there are sections that are crossed through that are deleted, okay? And it shows you these changes on the side. But this can be a really helpful thing just because it shows you exactly what changes you've made and it gives you a more realistic picture of your revision. It's really easy if you're working within the same document or if you're not looking back at your original document to think that you've done much more than you actually have or sort of get lost in the revision, right? And this tells you exactly what's new and exactly what's not. You can see sort of the percentage of things that you've revised. So I'm asking you not to do this for the version that you turn in. I don't want your merged document, okay? I just want the revised version, but this is for you or for when you're conducting the peer review on Monday to show you those changes, okay? So this is just a tip that's not in the 13 strategies that I find really helpful and some students like a lot, is being able to merge the documents and get this sort of track change version. For today's activity, so I've uploaded these to Elms. They're under our new module. Right here, this is the original, and it has the instructor's comments, and this is the revised version that shows you all of the changes as well. I'd like you to read through the instructor's comment on the original, and then look at this revised version and see how the student implemented those suggestions. Afterwards, you're going to hop on the discussion board here and answer some questions about those changes. So, general thoughts on the student's revision, what kind of changes did you notice that he or she made, and what is the effect of those changes? Again, this is practice for your reflection when you have to point out not only the revisions you've made, but why you've made those revisions and what those are doing for your paper. Okay, and then finally, if there's anything that you think the student should have done but didn't, all of this should take you approximately 250 words, and you need to post it by 11:59 p.m. on May 6th. Okay, so good luck, have fun, and I'll talk to you on Friday. Let me know if you have any questions before then. All right, bye.